I don't know if the film really redefines like strong female character trope or anything, so much as just take it incredibly literally. Action! Strength can mean many different things, some of which we tap into in this story.
Rose was kind of reacting to the idea that people really require you as a young female filmmaker to make movies about strong women, and so she was like, what does that mean? We're not used to bad behavior from girls in movies that is not then underlined and overcome.
This is a movie that doesn't really follow a lot of rules. It's chaos. It's a queer story, which is always beautiful for me. You know, we talked about it having really strong characters. It's very female-driven. I prefer to know my own strength.
My mother, God bless her soul, is 94 years old, and this is not a film for her.
It's a love story between two seemingly very different women, and they meet, fall madly in love, and then lots of things just start to go very, very wrong.
So I was just like, what do you want? Even if I think it sounds insane and embarrassing and weird and stupid, I'm gonna do it for you.
Everyone's just horny and weird throughout the whole film, and it's through a mix of sex, steroids, and codependency.
Rose is so smart, and she has this kind of irreverent approach. Everything she did was just sort of for fun, like for laughs or something.
Let's see how it goes.
She has such a clear vision for such a chaotic concept.
Rose has got a great, wicked imagination. She has a vision. She's unafraid, and she's very thorough. I just really appreciate that. She just really pays attention to detail, everything.
This is a story that you can't predict where it's going, and that's what I'm drawn to more than anything these days. It's just writers and filmmakers who are at least taking a huge swing.
Yes. I just knew that she was gonna make something cohesive and ephemeral and odd and very much her.
The scene where she first sees her across the gym, I feel like that. You really sort of feel something there. It wasn't a particularly highbrow reference or anything, but like for that scene, I was more like just remembering the scene in The Mask where Jim Carrey sees Cameron Diaz across the bank.
Rose is such a little freak, and so I just like really wanted to see what came out of her.
She just doesn't hold back. Like when things get violent, it gets real violent. It makes it so that like when you see one of those moments, you realize, oh, anything can happen in this movie.
Rose sent me a few films to sort of reference the tone and the sort of comedic timing of this film, and one was Showgirls. I watch it and I'm like, this is so good. Food. The oscillation between camp and just dire humanity is something that is so hard to nail, and they did in that film, and it really helped me understand what Rose was trying to develop.
I think that she knows exactly what she's doing. I think she just lets her work speak for itself. The script was precise and beautiful and almost perfect, but then when we got out in the field and things started changing, and she was having to pivot, I knew to trust her when she told me to go like absolutely ballistic, go too far.
When I read the script, I was terrified, honestly. It was definitely gonna be the most challenging thing that I had done. I wanted to lend a full personality to somebody who has an ambition that's not necessarily mainstream.
What initially inspired the character of Jackie was wanting to tell a story about an incredibly muscular woman. As someone who's not an incredibly muscular woman, maybe I was just sort of fascinated by the qualities it would take to be able to transform yourself in that way.
And cut there.
She has this kind of overt femininity that doesn't normally go with the muscle thing.
It's an art, yeah. Bodybuilding is an art form. It's a passion that people have, and there's beauty in it.
There's just something kind of anarchic and fascinating and beautiful about bodybuilding, and weird as well. It's a performance art as much as it is a sport. You're kind of turning yourself into a human sculpture. It just seemed like really psychologically interesting sort of territory to have a character who is in that world.
I became involved in this project in a really unique way. I actually had a fan send me a casting breakdown for it. They were looking for female bodybuilders who are also actors to play a lead role in a lesbian love story. That's something that's right down my alley.
What's incredible about Katy is her drive and dedication to this role, and it was just extraordinary. And of course, she's got this incredible physique and physicality scratched just beneath that. And I think what she really brings to Jackie is imbuing her with this real softness and vulnerability and kind of dorkiness. I love that duality about her. Jackie's pure energy, ambition, and drive. She's kind of striking out by herself. She sets Lou's world alight because Lou's someone who wants to transform herself as well. She wants to leave the town that she grew up in.
Yeah, I've never been anywhere but here.
She wants to do all of these things that Jackie is making happen, which Lou,
I want to do really bad. I want to fucking kill him.
for various reasons, sort of can't bring herself to do.
Jackie's big motivation is to win a bodybuilding competition. When she meets up with Lou, it throws her for a little bit of a spin.
I think when Jackie rolls into town, Lou's just never seen anything like that.
You're looking pretty good in there.
She's just never seen a woman asserting herself in that way.
Touch the. Oh, hey.
Oh, man, she's a girl.
Hey.
Lou's kind of a frustrated, lonely person. She's sort of stuck in a rut in her life, wants to change all these things but can't. Trying to quit smoking but can't. She's got all these feuds with various members of her family, which she sort of never quite has the guts to do anything about. So she's sort of stuck.
You're going to ignore me the rest of your life?
And looking for a change, but not sure of where to find it.
If anything changes, she just hates me more and more as the movie goes on. It's pretty wild.
Lou is a nice guy, you know? She's kind of like a total softie. She has this extremely ferocious exterior that's built by this odd kind of criminal upbringing that she's had with her father. She's got blinders on, to be honest. She's kind of diminished. Everything about Lou is I want to disappear. Everything about Lou is like, I'm passive. I'm a good guy. I'm not like my dad. And that's so not true.
As fragile as a house of cards.
Lou is just somebody who has like a sort of frail, like kind of tepid energy. You can feel it. It needs somewhere to go. And Lou is kind of a secret monster. You know, she's scared that she's a really bad person. When she was wrapped up in her dad's business, there are implications that she was very violent, that she used firearms.
Fuck you, you rat!
You feel like no matter how hard we try, we all inevitably turn into our parents. And noble people are perfectly capable of doing lots of terrible, shitty things and justifying it to themselves if it allows them to do the thing that makes them feel good.
Are you threatening me?
Yep. I sent her the script. She joked that sometimes you get offered roles and you're a bit kind of, oh, I'm not sure if I can do it. But then she was like, then I read yours and I was like, well, who the fuck else is she gonna get to do this? I love the idea of Kristen playing a kind of moody heartthrob, sort of film noir anti-hero.
I love when we dump the car and we light it on fire.
Kristen felt like, oh, this feels kind of cool. I don't get to do this sort of stuff much, but you just like push the thing and like, yeah.
And Lou's just like forward motion all the way.
What is this place?
Don't answer, just kiss her.
And there's something very hot about looking at someone and saying, I got you, follow me. I love all the bad stuff that Jackie does, and I love all the messy violence.
And we're not perfect people, which I absolutely love. I think that being able to show people as horribly flawed, making mistakes with each other, and being able to overcome those, I think that's one of the greatest strengths that we have.
And I think Katy had a probably different idea of who her character was compared to who I thought Lou thought Jackie was.
I love you. Please stay here.
They kind of balance each other out. They both help each other. Lou helps Jackie train for the competition. Jackie helps Lou kind of adapt to a healthier lifestyle.
I started doing chin-ups, and that's something I'm really proud of. How much can I bench? I could probably pick you up. I could probably bench you. I do think that they're opposed in every way. I sort of understood halfway through the movie that Jackie was a terrifying human being.
Whoa!
Jackie's kind of like fire and Lou's like water. Lou is very subtle, very stagnant here. I mean, this is her life. She does kind of the same thing every day. And Jackie is like this whirlwind that comes in and is a little more chaotic.
That's why you think so hard about who you're gonna cast. There's some magical kind of final thing that just needs to happen. And fortunately really did with these two.
We've talked everything through. We know what each other's limits are. That kind of helps some of the awkwardness of like really intense sexual scenarios that we have to be in.
There's all of these different elements. How you're gonna dress them and how you're gonna shoot it, the sound, the light, and then of course, the performances that they give.
We know that it's a safe place. We're here for the character, we're here for the movie. It's not even just about chemistry, it's about knowing that you're safe with this other person and you're able to be vulnerable and comfortable.
Yeah, watching the friction of their bodies together and the sort of power dynamic that's being subverted. I've seen it in life, I haven't necessarily seen it on film. Huh? The whole time you're watching the movie, you're not quite sure what's gonna happen. You're not quite sure what movie it wants to be.
Is it queer sci-fi? Maybe. Is it thriller? I mean, is it a romance?
Well, I don't know what genre you would call this film in the first place. I think it's kind of its own animal.
It's fucking weird and human.
Call it more of a love story, really, with a lot of interesting wrinkles.
If you are a filmmaker with a voice that you want to tell something new, you have to break genre. You have to transform it.
I think audiences typically, when they watch a film, they go, oh, cool, crime thriller. Well, they'll win at some point after some hardship. I wouldn't say that we necessarily win at the end. But we definitely blow up the idea of a female success story.
I knew I wanted to make something that was sort of pulpy and a bit melodramatic and outlandish and flirts with the fantastical. The ending is a sort of culmination of that flirtation.
These are the most amazing, most incredible, beautiful person I've ever met in my whole life.
Sometimes an internal experience feels unreal. If you shot what was on the outside, the catharsis just wouldn't be there. So it's like, if you feel larger than life, well, then why don't we really make them larger than life?
I'm about to kill my daughter, and then I look.
Wow!
She sticks the gun way down in there.
She went so far.
Blood starts coming out of my mouth and shit. That was kind of fun.
It feels good. Our job is not always to be the good guy.
Sick fuck. There's all of these different elements all kind of like hopefully pulling together to try and create something real and exciting. You sort of just also have to hope that there's the final sort of stroke of luck.
Wish me luck.
Fucking get it.
Rose, she definitely sees the beauty in a scene that might seem hideous to other people. Visually, it's just captivating.
It's really innately female, and like that in itself usually implies the opposite of what I mean. It's hungry, and it is alive, and it is full of shame, and then it is full of repossession of a lot of violence that's been thrown at us, we get to take back and throw it back at them. Ultimately, running off into the sunset, dead or alive, who knows? Feels like a fever dream you don't want to wake up from. But then at the same time, afterwards, you go like, why did I enjoy that so much? What's wrong with me?
Love Lies Bleeding takes place in the late 80s in America, kind of in the sort of weird nowhere town somewhere in the Southwest. That kind of time and place, particularly when sort of shown in films, just has this almost like mythological kind of quality to it.
I thought it was weird too.
Crazy. The script itself is so mind-bending. Rose is situating this in a place that is also a little bit hyper-real.
In this vast expanse, you have this feeling of being almost alone.
And with all the guns and muscles, it just felt like, I don't know, that just felt like the right territory for it.
Yeah, you like guns?
Not really.
How am I doing?
The town that the film takes place in is Lou's hometown.
Yeah, I've never been anywhere but here.
Like, her whole thing is that she just kind of hates the place and has always wanted to leave but never has.
Why not?
And she's got all these kind of like demons keeping her there. So we wanted the world to feel sort of, I guess, oppressive and kind of intense.
I get really excited when I read a script and immediately can kind of see the movie. So I was like, yep, I'll do it. Sounds good. I see Love Lies Bleeding as a pretty like dark movie, but it's also a comedy.
What is that?
Just giving his bed a little spruce. They like things moist, cozy.
Fuck yeah, they do.
Reading something on a page and then seeing how they act it out sometimes can bring comedy to it that I didn't necessarily see at first, especially with things like dead bodies and rugs. But also with it being, you know, set in the 80s, we're really kind of going into that sort of like cult classic kind of like just making things a little bit weird, you know.
I feel like this movie feels a little detached from time. Like, it feels like a movie that was made in the 80s, not a movie that now is a period piece kind of remarking on that time.
There was some weird lunar kind of idea behind some of it, like the whole fact that it's called Crater, the town and the gym. And I was trying to think of the name for the gun club, and we called it Louville.
Rose and I kind of landed on we're grungy and gritty. It was really just sort of talking through the main sets and really just sort of like what were the main impressions she wanted with colors and overall vibe. It's like trying to define the vibe of a place and the feeling we want to get from it to kind of guide me into how to design it. The gym, for example, is like we just built out of a big warehouse, so we kind of made it from scratch. We did a lot of wood paneling and carpet and duct tape and kind of grungy, you know, so it was like really define the vibe of these places.
A lot of design we were doing there was to cast a very deep shadow over the town.
While still having that whole cohesive thread that goes through, that it all feels like the same world.
You can stay here.
I need to sleep on the couch.
No, shut the fuck up. You can stay here. We've been living in this like little apartment, like little womb of an apartment. And we're getting to know each other and loving each other.
You know, for example, Lou's apartment was pretty grungy, and she's not as well off as her sister Beth, so it's a bit more piecemeal and vintage stuff. But then Beth's family, they have kids, they have lots of toys around, they buy stuff more, so we had just more stuff and layers.
Yeah.
Boss, now a good time?
Good as any.
For Lou Sr.'s house, we definitely wanted to make a statement there with sage green walls and monochromatic drapes and bright peach walls. You know, made it feel very much like an interior designer had done all this. We had a custom portrait made of him and his new wife hanging over the mantle.
I was like, that's cool. I liked that.
We did a photo shoot that we coordinated with wardrobe, and then we had a painter paint it. So it's an original painting, you know, one of a kind. And Rose has asked to keep the portraits.
Yeah.
Lou Sr., yeah, I mean, he's a pretty happy guy, basically. He loves his wife, and he loves his Beatles. He's got some Beatle cages that he's very fond of. The Beatles are like my friends.
He's like super into the bugs, and we made special terrariums. A lot of our sets, like especially the gym and the gun club, some of those details is like what would be authentic, what types of gym equipment, what types of guns would they have. For the most part, we really try to just stick with vintage.
Get a little wild if you want.
We're getting to really dive into 1989 with our cast. In their period correct wardrobe and hairdos. It's fun to dive into that world.
My name is Olga Mill, and I'm the costume designer. People have an idea of the 80s that tends to be really glossy, and Rose wanted to do something more grounded, but at the same time, honor the fantastical elements of the script. A lot of the research that we did was looking at real Polaroids, and that stuff is weirder and bolder than any like editorials you're gonna find from the 80s. When I say it's like grounded, it doesn't mean that it's like boring.
It's boring.
It gave us more room to make really strong, bold choices. Lou's character is somebody that immediately I was like, oh, this is an outsider in this world, in this small town.
I love like pulling from like areas of fashion that were achieved by people who had to have some serious balls and gusto to go out looking like that. For that person, it took some serious design and like some serious work.
The energy that the actor brings is always kind of like the main ingredient of the soup. It's something that evolved from Kristen and I chatting, we're like, does her character have any influences at all that feel like Southwestern? You know, and that was something Rose and I weren't sure about until Kristen came in, and we decided, like, no, this character wants to get out of here and doesn't want to identify with this town at all.
Lou needed to feel like it took a long time for her to figure out what she wanted to look like. If she has 3 t-shirts, it's because they're perfect and no other t-shirts than these 3 will work. Our first instinct was boots and like a belt and maybe some leather, and then it was like, no, she's soft. The whole thing about Lou is that she's trying not to be seen. And then at the same time, there is this very well-earned queer aesthetic that if you imagine this girl living where she lives and actually figuring that out with the things that she's into, people just don't know about those things in this place. And so for her to have cultivated this look in this town, in this place, in this year, it was actually a pretty radical way to look.
Here we have all of Lou's wardrobe and her closet. This jumpsuit, we wanted to tie in the red with the lining of that jacket that she later shares with Jackie. We have multiples for all the stunt work. The jacket, we thought of it as something that's been in Lou's wardrobe for a really long time. I mean, it's oversized on her. It's kind of protective, and it's like a cocoon layer, which is something that I think represents their relationship. Lou wears it in a really different way than how Jackie wears it, whereas like Jackie has the sleeves rolled up and it's usually a little bit more open and more exposed.
What's incredible about Katy is she's got this incredible physique and physicality from her own kind of training that she's been doing her whole life.
Rose wanted Jackie's character to be like the needle goes off the record when we see her.
Meeting Katy in wardrobe and hair and makeup, seeing her put on the wig and getting into the body, and it's absolutely breathtaking. She becomes a woman that I would have idolized as a child in the 80s.
So where did you appear from?
It was definitely like, this is a cool, sexy, hip character who knows she's got the look and she's gonna flaunt it.
There's something about her that's really bombshelly.
I had done some bodybuilding competitions in the past, but I wanted to kind of do some research about what it was like in the 80s. It's kind of this interesting time period where they were making a shift of what do we want to see in women's bodybuilding in the future? And it was originally a really soft look. And around the 80s is when steroids came in, ta-da! And women started getting bigger and bigger, and they redefined the boundaries of what bodybuilding was.
Jackie, like from a practical point of view, she's living out of a bag. So the choices that we made about like what's actually in that bag held a lot of weight. There's so much of the 80s stuff is super branded, so we worked really hard on getting just as many things to not look generic as possible, and having that kind of branded graphics really helped.
I'd say my favorite hairstyle in Love Lies Bleeding is probably Jackie's, just because Katy was wearing a wig, and I would often forget that she was wearing a wig. And that was slightly inspired by this bodybuilder called Lisa Lyon. She was a real inspiration for Jackie's look. And in fact, she did this photo shoot with Robert Mapplethorpe, and that's some of the stuff that I was looking at whilst writing the character.
I was surprised when I first saw Jackie's wardrobe, because when I see so much skin, I'm kind of thinking, man, I would never go to the gym in that. I don't want that attention. But once I tried it on, I was like, okay, I totally see who this character is.
Jackie relies on the attention of men in order to get by sometimes. So it's a mix between what you need practically, as she's like training to be a bodybuilder on the road, surviving, slash, I care about how I look and how I present to the world because it's a survival mechanism.
A bit more powerful than a punch, huh? Well, Lou Sr.'s got long hair. Got these extensions put in, which is kind of trippy.
Well, Ed's character, like on the page, when you read it, is like, could be, well, he's a monster, right? So how do you make that unexpected?
It's great seeing people reacting to seeing him for the first time, because you sort of forget that he looks insane.
Insane? Yes and no? Question mark? But yeah.
This robe was something that I purchased like
before I was like, I don't know what this could play for. And then last minute, Rose was like, what if we put Ed in a robe?
I was messaging with him and we were trying to figure out how he should look. And I just wanted him to look different to how we've ever seen Ed before.
I had these extensions put in and they just put them in this length, and Rose saw it. She said, that's cool, just leave it like that.
And he was like, oh, maybe I can get some like extensions and do a little ponytail. And then he got these incredible, like luscious extensions put in.
It's a bitch to untangle after shower, even with globs of hair conditioner. It's tough.
Ed had sent me this picture and I was like, oh, amazing. But it was weird because I got sent the picture and then I showed it to Kristen. She was like, what the fuck? And then showed me a picture of her dad, and he either now or used to have kind of a similar hairdo. So that was an added level of creepiness for her while doing it.
Then Rose said, yeah, that'd be good, you know, because maybe Dave might have a little short one. JJ, we're gonna talk.
I sort of liked the idea of Dave's look, aspiring to emulate Lou Sr. He's married to Lou Sr.'s daughter, so I kind of like the idea that he's trying to copy his hairstyle.
I was always imagining like this really skinny little rat tail, and then we got to it, and it's like I'm the king of the rat tails. There's like 20 tendrils back there. It's just really pretty gnarly. I look in the mirror, I'm like, Jesus, I can't believe this is who I am now.
I think even before I had the story, just going into it, I knew I wanted to make something that was fantastical a little. That's why you think so hard about how you're going to dress them and how you're going to shoot it.
And there's something kind of cathartic and evocative about the nightmare/fantasy of being able to see your girlfriend get really big and tell your dad to shut the fuck up.
When you have a moment in the script where the two main characters turn into 30-foot giants, that kind of blows the door wide open creatively as to like what that could look like. For Jackie, she's in her black bikini in a way that fulfills her fantasy of what that competition should have been.
And it was nice because then in the edit, that sort of gave us the idea of, ooh, there's all these nice empty dark skies. And I was like, well, maybe we could sort of add all these stars. And then you start to think of them as kind of like alien lovers drifting through the cosmos and kind of find each other.
For the giant look, we covered everything in glitter. So it's glittery and sparkly and kind of one with the night sky. And I felt like the clothes needed to match the bigness of that gesture. No pun intended.